Can women really have it all? This is a question I have been thinking about for a very, very long time. Can we have a thriving career, a thriving business? Can we be mothers? Can we have our health intact? Can we have amazing friends? Some of you may think the answer to that is no. Today, I hope to inspire you with my own personal story and a very practical exercise you can do that will show you that you can have it all. Now, there's a really important big life event update that I have for all of you, which you may not have heard yet, especially if you're not connected with me on social media or if you're not following the podcast on social media, you may not have heard it yet. My big life update is that I'm pregnant. I'm currently expecting my first baby and I'm due in July, which I am so excited about. But obviously, this happening, shall we say, which by the way was totally planned and wanted and something I'm extremely excited about. And I'm the kind of person who I've always known I wanted to have kids, right? But being very ambitious, I do feel there is this subtext that you have to choose career or motherhood. And so what I want to do today is tell you guys a little bit about my story and how I've been thinking about this choice. And then also share a very practical 3-step process that I have undergone myself. And I love sharing it with other women now so that they can actually create the space to get clarity on exactly what it is they want so they can have it all too. So it all started for me when I was sitting at my corporate office job. I was sitting at my desk knowing and longing for a family, right? Knowing that that's what I wanted in my future. But because of the hours and the rigidity of corporate, I just I couldn't see it happening, right? I knew the kind of hands-on mother that I aspire to be. I want to be at home, I want to be able to cook for my family. And knowing what the corporate world demands of me, I really was at this crossroads. Like, am I going to continue to chase this career when I know it's not going to allow me to be the kind of parent I want to be? So I really had to make a decision. And as some of you know, 12 months ago, I finally left my corporate job, which was like 5 years in the making, 5 years ago from me kind of having this initial thought of it's not going to all work for me this way. I couldn't see myself having it all, right? I had to find a way to make that make sense. Now, the first thing I really want to share with all of you watching is I think the question is not, do you want a career or motherhood, right? I think we're very misled in thinking that that is the choice we have to make. I think the question is, what kind of career do you want? What does having it all mean to you? And there is zero judgment on whatever anybody decides. Some people may say, you know what, for me, it's a very clear decision between career and motherhood. But for those of you like me who feel like you want to be a hands on mum, but you also want to have kind of your own things happening, I do feel there is a happy medium. But it really comes down to understanding and thinking about and getting that clarity on what it is you actually want. So, how do we create space? How do we get clarity? A life hack that I have realized is that leaning into creativity helps you get clarity. It helps you create space in your life. Because think about it, right? When you're creative, you're in flow, you're relaxed, you're completely detached from the stresses of everyday life. You're just kind of going with the flow, right? It's that really easeful energy. So when you're in that space, it's a lot easier to have clarity on what you want. And actually, that should be your preference because if you're trying to force clarity or think about what it is you want or think about what having it all means to you, and you're doing that from a very busy state, from a stressed state, from a state where I've just got 5 minutes on the way home or I've just got an hour on the weekend in between all my appointments, that's not the place we want to be creating from. That's not the place we want to be ideating from. So, the beginning of all of this is finding a creative practice so that you can actually have some clarity in your life. Now, think about it for one moment. Think about your routine. Are you actually carving out time to be creative? Is that something you have as a regular practice? Probably not, right? And there's zero judgment. And I know exactly where you are because before I actually sat down and asked myself that exact question, there was no time and space for creativity in my schedule either. Today, there's only one way I've been able to do that consistently, have consistent space for a creative practice. And that's all thanks to today's sponsor, Skillshare. A current creative practice for me that I've always been interested in, but more recently have found myself drawn to is drawing. I find the experience really calming and relaxing, and I really enjoy it. But it is something I've wanted to actually learn how to do properly, right? So I came across the Comprehensive Introduction to Drawing Foundations and Style class by Mimi Chow on Skillshare. And that has allowed me to actually take this desire of mine, this interest of mine, and make it a reality, make it a regular creative practice. It's become a weekly thing I do now on a Wednesday. I put it smack bang in the middle of the week so I can start to create a little bit of that freedom and detachment from the busyness and monotony of day to day life. If you didn't know, by the way, Skillshare has thousands of classes led by thousands of experts in so many different fields, from writing to storytelling to personal development, creativity skills you might want to cultivate, like what we've been talking about, to personal branding, career, entrepreneurship, and more. With so many classes to choose from, selecting a creative practice for you to hone in on, learn, and actually make space for has never been easier. And with a variety to choose from, there is something for everyone. Now, the first 500 people to use either the link in my bio or scan the QR code on the screen will get a whole month free access to Skillshare to take the time to find their creative practice and actually start to feel what it's like to have a little bit of guidance in making this a creative space for yourself on a regular basis. That's one whole month to freely explore, create, and start building out your creative practice. This is the key to giving you clarity of mind, finding a creative space where you can tap into on a regular basis, get into that energy, because that, I guarantee you, the clarity will just come. It will just find you. And I know this because once I started doing it as a regular practice, I literally was able to drop into that zone before and after, during, when I was in that space. It was just a beautiful time for me, myself, and I. So we've got a creative practice. We're leaning into it regularly. We're now able to start building and ideating from that space. We're able to create clarity in our mind. What does having it all mean to us? We want to build from this space of calm, not from this space of I've just shoved 5 minutes on my weekend, right? So, this is exactly what I did once I was in that calm state. It's three simple questions. The first one is, what does having it all mean to you, right? What is this future reality of yours? What is this dream life that you are working towards? What does it look like? And what you want to do here is get really clear on the actual day to day of it. How are you waking up? What's your morning routine? What kind of habits and rituals do you have? And an exercise I love to do here is a journal entry, right? I just journal out as though I've just finished my ideal day, and I talk about the flow of it. So when I was thinking about this, and mind you, I was still sitting in a corporate office, I closed my eyes and I really thought about this life where I have a career that feels aligned for me, that feels flexible, that's not on somebody else's time, that is on my own terms. And I also have a family where I can be there for my kids. I can raise them and I can cook for them. I've got a way I can balance both. So what does my ideal day look like? Well, I wake up and I prioritize my health before everyone in the house wakes up. Then I'm able to make breakfast for everyone. Then I can switch off for a few hours and do a little bit of my own work. And maybe that means my husband is looking after the kids, or my in laws are over, spending some time with them. Then I go back and we have lunch all together and spend the afternoon together. The kids ideally go to bed, nice and early. And that's my time with my husband. And so just reflecting on like a perfect ideal day in my ideal dream future, I can see kind of what things are most prominent: my health, my relationships, family, and, my things that I do for myself, but that don't occupy 95% of my day. So that was the dream, right? That's what I built out. So your job, first and foremost, is to build out what is your dream. And you can also use, if you're an AI girly or you like using tech to kind of support you in the different things you're doing, you can put into ChatGPT some prompts in terms of what you're striving towards and ask it to tell you what your ideal day looks like, what your morning routine looks like. So this is a really beautiful thing to do and a beautiful exercise to do once you're in that place of clarity. The second step is to simply work out what is the gap, right? So you've got this beautiful visual of what your future reality looks like. You know exactly where you are right now today, right? You could be me sitting in a corporate office thinking and dreaming about this life that felt so far, didn't even, wasn't even pregnant, wasn't even ready to have kids. I was still working for somebody else. It felt so far from where I was. But when I started to think about the gap, right? What is the gap between that person, that reality, and where I am now? It starts to paint this beautiful picture of the habits, the routine, the daily things that you will be doing or that you need to add on to your routine that you're not currently doing. And this also does something really amazing. It also helps you identify what you need to stop doing. So your future self will probably not be engaging with certain people, certain environments, certain situations that you're currently doing, maybe even bad habits. So it also helps you kind of work out within that gap, what do you need to start doing as much as you need to stop doing. And the third step, really simple. Once you work out those things, start taking action on them. Start adding in some of those things, whether it is prioritizing your health first thing in the morning, whether it is stopping scrolling on your phone before you go into bed, right? This is going to be very unique to you. I can't tell you what those things are. But for me, a big shift of that was I have to change my working environment. So I had to work towards stopping working in a corporate full-time job and working on a consulting basis, right? So that was something I worked out many, many years ago. And that action plan only really kicked in 12 months ago. At that point, I had built up a network. I had started getting the confidence about managing clients on my own and relationships on my own and how I would like to work and how I'm going to price myself. All these things were sitting in the back of my mind because I knew that if I want to work only 2, 3 hours a day, I have to be working on my own terms, especially if I want to be making, a salary or a full-time income or enough financial freedom for me to feel satisfied. It's kind of like a reverse engineer exercise, I guess. When you work out what that ideal dream is and you start backtracking, then you can start slowly implementing things that's going to close that gap. And this was really important for me because instead of saying, well, I can't be someone who works 2, 3 days a week and is financially free and can be a full-time mum, this is not the space for that kind of self-talk. We are all about empowerment. And if there is something you want and it's a dream in your heart, you just need to work out how to make it work for you, right? Don't let the limitations of what other people are or are not doing, or what other people say you can and can't do, or what you've seen has been done or not before. If it's something you want, you work out how to make it happen. And that's exactly how I've planned for my pregnancy, for running my own business, for having this podcast. Like you guys know, I never miss a week, right? It's because I'm organized and it's because I know why I'm doing it. And it's very important to me. And even when baby comes, I will not be breaking in the podcast because I'm going to be very organized and kind of organizing my content ahead of time. All of this to say, whatever life you want, it is possible for you. Women can have it all. The bottom line is you need to define what having it all means to you. And that only comes from a place of clarity. One life hack I've had is that using creativity or a creative practice helps me get into the energy that gives me the clarity to create my dreams, my realities, my future visions of myself. So that's like a little roadmap, right? The creative practice through to the 3 questions of how I've actually planned for this period of my life. And I'm so excited to see the reality of it when baby comes. Actually, I was talking to my sister the other day and I've kind of realized I thought that this change in me and my life kind of will start the moment that the baby arrives, but it's already started, right? Like my energy is not the same. I'm starting to think a little bit differently. So I'm already kind of undergoing that transformation, which is really exciting. But of course, when baby's here, uh, I can revert back on how I'm kind of juggling everything practically. But on that note, if that's a topic area you're interested in, I have a theory. You know it very well. It's called the balance theory, but we do have a practical workshop, which is completely free. It's on YouTube. I'm going to put a link in the show notes or on the screen now if you're watching on YouTube. There's a free PDF that goes with it. And this workshop is for someone who wants to get a little bit clearer on their current priorities and how to manage their time and prioritize their time around those things. Because, if you don't make the most important thing, it's not the most important thing, right? So having some practical strategies and tools. And if you're like me, you love your timetables and your schedules. If that's you, this workshop is for you. Check it out. It will help you get a bit more clarity around today and the kind of more minute ins and outs of your daily routine. But then when you zoom out and you're thinking about like your future reality and what your life is to look like, it has to come from that place of clarity and kind of through the steps we've discussed today. So let me know if any other questions have come up. If you're a mum that has undergone this transition, I'd love to hear what your unique balance is. Or if you're a woman watching this and you have decided what having it all means to you and you've gone after it and gotten it, or maybe you're feeling inspired and you have an idea of what having it all means to you. I would love to hear it. Please drop a comment below. I would love to see a thread of women just sharing all their different ideas of what having it all means, because there is no one definition. Having it all is not a singular concept. It's not ticking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes. It's whatever you decide it means. So, with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Until then, stay balanced.